Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Um, as co-chair, what brought you down to DC in this event?
So we've been thinking about volunteering with the event for several years now. We've often attended. It's a very interesting conference focused on kind of the technical aspects of architecture that often get overlooked. So much of our profession always focuses on all the design components, which are very important, but just as equally important is how it all goes together. So when the opportunity came to co-chair this, we all agreed that would be a great opportunity for us.
And do you think as a firm, is there equal emphasis on the design aspect of things as design architect, as well as the construction side, following the design through construction administration?
There is. I mean, we're definitely a full service firm, and realizing that having the people involved with the early design, making the early decisions with the owner, taking it all the way through, and actually understanding why stuff happens in construction is so important. Because there's nothing worse than sitting in a construction meeting and the contractor's asking you, well, why did you do it this way? And everyone just kind of stares at each other. Well, we don't know. No, we do know, because we actually were sitting in those meetings where we had conversations with the owner about, well, this is why we're going to do it that way. And so that kind of smoothes the whole process.
And to that extent, how in the weeds really can be about detailing every little, horizontal and vertical line, especially in your DD set when it goes out to bid, unless you have that support from the supplier or subcontractor.
So I find it interesting because if you look back at sets from, the 40s, the 50s, you could build a giant skyscraper from, 25 sets of drawings, and people seem to have no problem with it. Nowadays, we do a set that has, 250 drawings, and we still have people asking us, well, how do we put this together? So it's like, where do you actually find where that median is of how much to draw, how much to detail, how much should you leave to the expertise of like the subcontractor, people who are actually in the field drawing it? We have a certain liability and a certain responsibility to detail our, what we call design intent. But do we need to draw every little piece in there, or is that enough? And I think the whole industry is still trying to find that balance.
And do you think the architecture community is incentivized to work with vendors, manufacturers, and subcontractors to help bridge that gap?
I think it's happening more and more. And when I first started in this industry, it almost never happened. Everything was designed to build. You only talk to vendors when you basically needed information from them. And it's gone completely different. I mean, 90% of our work is with CMs at risk now. We started to do more design build. A lot of times we're looking at doing design assist and actually bringing vendors in early, because frankly, they know their products. They know what they're doing on site and how to actually implement the ideas that we have. It's our job to then go and pull it all together with the other building systems. We don't necessarily need to detail every screw of a curtain wall, for example. Like, let them do that. That's what they're the experts at.
Do you think a lot of that information is readily available online, or do you need to really tap into the manufacturing network?
I think you can get the basic stuff online, but how many of your projects really just repeat the same thing over and over? Like, you can go online and get like the basic details of things, but you're not going to get what you specifically need for your project. We don't want every building to look the same. A lot of details are not going to be the same. We need someone who's actually willing to work with us and figure out how to make that design a reality.
And everything beyond the envelope, because really people can't see beyond the envelope. That's what they look at. That's the aesthetic implication of it. But then how the insulation ties back to the structure, how the cladding attachment clips might be mitigated through thermal breaks or to mitigate thermal bridging, like all these things behind the decorative element that actually matter when it comes to durability and the longevity of the skin. Do you think enough emphasis is focused on that? Also, it's the unsexy side of the business.
I mean, that's the reason we get sued most of the time, frankly. The number one cause of lawsuits for architects is always water infiltration, it seems. So if we're not paying attention to everything that's happening beyond just, what the public can see, like that's where the problems go wrong. How many times have we gone back to an old building and, start pulling off the facade and you see how everything inside is basically degraded to a point where it's failing, and then we got occupants complaining that they have issues in there. So if we don't actually pay attention to how that's all put together, then we have serious problems.
And is it a really unique owner that cares about adding a third line of sealant or an extra inch of insulation or making sure that you maintain that air barrier continuity versus we're going to have this custom color or we're going to have a half inch more depth to get that shadowing effect, something that can resonate with them?
So it's interesting because we never work with one owner. There's different, just like you're not working with one architect, you're working with a team of architects, we're working with a team of owners. We're going to get the people who care about like what the exterior facade looks like, as they should. And we have people that care about how their classroom is set up or how their office is set up. And then we have the facilities folks who actually have to maintain the building. And they're the ones that want to see how everything is put together, what they have to do to actually go back in and fix later. Like they're the ones that are going to be pulling for all those technical details in there. And a lot of times, most of our owners will defer to them on those details. Just like the facilities folks are not certain to be the ones picking paint colors. So sometimes so.
More if you're talking to. Well, Greg, thanks for coming on. I hope this conference has been helpful and that we'd see you at more of them in the future.
Absolutely.